And welcome to the SpartanMag.com VCast. Jim Comparoni, Paul Konyndyk, Breslin Center, Michigan State. Big win today over Penn State, 92-61. Spartans victorious. Got some hot shooting, 10 out of 21 from three-point range. Michigan State. That was a nice sight to see for Michigan State fans. And Tom Izzo, Tyson Walker, big game. Malik Hall, big game. Michigan State looking like a good team, doing what a good team is supposed to do to an inferior team. So in that regard, Michigan State coming out of the holiday break, game number 2, and they look like they're ready for the Big Ten to really start in earnest this weekend, Sunday, against pretty good Northwestern team.
A really good Northwestern team, a team that's got some veteran guards, and that's what I'll be interested to see. But you look at Michigan State, this 5-game sample, you got Baylor, Indiana State, those are the two big dogs, and Michigan State did really well against both those teams. So Penn State, I don't care how bad the team is, you win by 30 points against that team and against a conference opponent, and it's a big deal. And Michigan State could have won by more points against a conference opponent if they hadn't substituted in some ways that they did. Guys got playing time that where you're at 30-point lead, and then that certain guy comes in, and then it goes down. But Michigan State did a whole lot of good things right, and in that sample put together, I've seen significant growth from the start of this 5-game streak against Baylor up till now, and there's not a lot of fool's gold there. I think the one thing I can say unequivocally is Michigan State has gotten far better playing team defense and doing it in the Michigan State way than they did prior to playing Baylor. We've talked about this before, like the denial stuff that was going on earlier in the year, and getting back to the pack line stuff that Michigan State plays, and that has gotten progressively better. And when veteran players are in there, the defensive communication has gotten really good, and it's led to transition buckets. You saw today for Michigan State in the first half, 14 turnovers. Led to pretty sizable advantage on the transition in the second half. Penn State didn't turn the ball over very much, but Michigan State still got out and ran the ball pretty effectively. So when you look at the one thing that Michigan State is significantly better at, besides shot dispersion, scoring, dispersion, people besides Tyson Walker scoring, it's team defense. And that team defense has turned into easy buckets for Michigan State. So yes, people are making shots, but they're also getting wide open rhythm shots. And it's different shooting a 3 in transition, when you're stepping into it, as opposed to getting a end of shot clock shot in the corner in the half court earlier in the season. Michigan State's been able to get into rhythm because of transition, because of defense, and it's ironic to me. The big push for everything has gone from, instead of talking about shooting and missed shots, they've talked about defense and rebounding, and that's kind of turned this thing around, and they continue to build. But this was a huge, regardless of the level of opponent, this is a huge mental confidence builder for Michigan State. And it's good to have one of these games where they look like the best team in the Big Ten for one night, because that's going to feed into guys' confidence, but particularly a guy like Malik Hall, who you and I have talked about in the past being a confidence guy. Scores a career high tonight, coming off an 18-point game against Indiana State. Malik Hall has confidence right now. A.J. Hogarth's hitting shots. Jaden Akins is hitting shots. Tyson Walker, obviously. Trey Hollman's playing his best ball right now. So that's all good things as Michigan State gets ready for a tough game at Northwestern.
Yeah, no, Malik Hall. The Malik Hall watch has been going on for you and I all season. Shot well tonight. They scripted to go right to him in the post, and he's their best post scorer. He's not their center, but when he's going up against a power forward, he gets it down there. You've seen it, the turnaround jumpers. He began the game tonight with the turnaround jumper, and that got him going. And, in the future, Michigan State opponents, you can probably bank on Malik Hall getting an early touch in the post early in a game. You're going to see more opponents starting to double team him in the post. And he's a good passer. He's unselfish. He can make use of that as well. From 16 feet in, he's a quality player both sides, both ends of the court. Good defender, good passer, good posting up, good driving, good ball fakes and finishing, pretty good touch. Of course, the missing component was the range shooting. And today he was 2 of 2 on 3-pointers. Passed up one to give Tyson Walker a better one on one occasion, but hit a 3-pointer against Indiana State. I think it was 1 out of 3 from 3-point range in that game. So
1 out of 4.
1 out of 4, okay. So a guy that was struggling well below 20% 3-point range for most of the year now has hit a couple of them. I've got to ask a couple of questions about just his mechanics have changed a little bit here and there. And they went in today. One of them got a very friendly roll But the rest of his game is really nice. And if that part comes around, it would mean so much for this team. I'm not sure it's going to come around for the long haul, but the long-range component of an all-around good game for him was there tonight.
Yeah, he's not going to be a guy that hits a lot of threes. You just need him to be the threat of the three. The one thing I would say that is kind of disconcerting to me is he looks very good mechanically if he shoots it from the corner. When he shoots it straight on the top of the circle, he's like, it's different. And I don't, like, I've watched it the last 3 games. Like, when he shoots it at different spots on the floor, it looks different. When he's in the corner and it's just catch and shoot, it looks really good. And he's not going to ever be a Joey Hauser, but if he can hit that shot in the corner, it's a good deal. And
what do you see that's different from the corner and top of the key?
It's straight up and down. It's not like when he shoots it when he's coming on, he leans into the shot.
Like as a trailer, top of the key trailer?
Well, not just a trailer. It's awkward looking. It's different, and it comes off his hand different. Our guy Jake Liskawa, I mentioned to him to watch it a little bit just because it's something I saw, and he sees it too. It just looks a little bit different. Now one of the biggest things with Malik Hall in terms of like shot mechanics, they've changed a lot over the years, and one of the things that they've tried to he's tried to develop is a quicker release. It stays on his hand a little bit longer than he would like, so that's led to some of the tinkering over the years, but he's doing what he can do, and
sure.
Like Joey Hauser's a great perimeter shooter. Malik Hall, Joey Hauser couldn't do necessarily what Malik Hall can do at the elbow and stuff like that. Hauser did have good low post moves and good footwork and whatnot, but they're different types of players. But Michigan State needs to have that threat, and if they don't, then they've got to have scoring from other places. And I don't think like A.J. Hogarth, he hit his first 2 threes tonight. I don't think that's necessarily going to be something that they can depend on. Right. It's good that he hit them, but lots of guys are making progress in different ways, and I think there's less pressure on certain guys now that everybody's scoring or doing a little bit more than there was earlier in the year when it was Hogarth has to score, Akins has to score. Now that Trey Hollman is doing some things, tonight we saw him drive and pull up and hit that shot. We saw him drive to the rack. Score at the rim. Those are getting used. Like he wasn't used to doing those type of things earlier in the year, and he didn't make them. So I think there's a lot more comfort level with guys within their specific games. I think they know what they can and can't do for the most part, and roles are more defined.
Holloman's an important part because there'll be a game when Hogarth gets in foul trouble. Hollman checks in, and Walker handles some of the point. They kind of share it, but Hollman, got 15, 16 minutes before Jeremy fears what happened with him. So. When Hollman was getting those minutes, he was as an off guard, as a shooting guard. Now, more is being put on his plate as a quarterback, as a backup quarterback. 23 minutes tonight. He's got to get used to playing those 23 minutes. He's excited to do it. He wants to do it. But the quarterback thing, there was some rust there at some practices earlier. And today I thought that Hollman did a pretty good job in terms of running the offense. There was one time when they went in zone. I'm not saying he's like Hogarth or even Fears in terms of running it, but he's easing into it, and he's got a big role. 23 minutes. There's going to be some time when he has to come in and play more. He's not there yet, but he's excited about it. And that dunk, that was, I'm not one to make a big deal about dunks, but his teammates on the bench reacted like they didn't know he had that in him.
They knew that he had it because he's done it in places like Moneyball, but that's different than doing it in a game. And you look at what he did today in the first half. He did play a lot more minutes as point guard because A.J. Hogarth was in foul trouble. He had 8 points in that first half, 4 assists, 0 turnovers. This is a guy on the year who's got 47 assists and 8 turnovers. That's pretty dang good. And he's not as flashy and is not as doesn't see the floor quite as well as A.J. Hogarth, but he's decisive when he passes. His teammates have confidence in him. I think his defense is getting better. But you talk about that dunk, maybe that's something he doesn't have the confidence to do earlier in the year. To me, I was more excited about him driving at the lane and pulling up and hitting that jumper, because those are the things that he's never had to do before, and those are the things that Hogarth gave them at the end of the shot clock. Can I drive? Get a screen. What can I do with a screen? And on 2 or 3 different occasions today, he was able to make plays at the rim that, frankly, that he couldn't have done earlier in the year.
And a lot of times, there's going to be times when he has to when the ball is in his hands, 7 seconds left on the shot clock, do something with it, which has never been something he's had to do with this team thus far.
That's my point.
And just getting these reps in a game like this, comfortable game situation, steps forward. Not there yet, but steps forward for him. Interestingly, talking about that dunk, he said that his mom told him to think dunk more. He said he goes in for layups all the time if there's traffic. Think dunk. He said his mom told him to go up and dunk the ball.
Think about it. He's got a 6'8" wingspan.
Yeah.
As a 6'2" kid, he can go up and dunk it, and it's a little bit easier. I think that's easier to do than a floater or something.
I wouldn't know.
Right. No. It's been a long time since I've dunked a basketball.
All right. So Malik Hall, not only did he score well, but he was efficient, 9 out of 12. Not only did Tyson Walker have a real nice game, 22 points, 9 out of 14. Okay. Your leading scorers, 24 and 22 points, 18 out of 26 combined. Extremely efficient. Those guys making shots. Tyson Walker, he was banged around today. He came to the bench today and they put ice or something on his ribs, which he hurt in the Indiana State game, running out of bounds, diving out of bounds. Ankle, he got hurt here and there. He's getting beaten up a little bit, and he asked to come out at one point in this game. So there's I don't want to say load management, but when he asked to come out, he is a resource, and they have to conserve him because when he's healthy and has all his juice, he is a dynamic college basketball player.
And they couldn't have done that earlier in the year. That's the thing when we were talking about earlier in the year of where he would bring them all the way back, and they couldn't finish where he had to play a ton of minutes. What I liked about him is I feel like right now when I was saying a few minutes ago that everybody knows their roles, I think he understands that he's the primary scorer, and there is no some of the shots that he's making now, there is zero hesitation. His shot release looks even quicker in transition. He is aggressively looking for a shot and making at a high percentage of them. When he's coming off the screens, he's doing it with purpose, looking to score. There's no it's like I'm the alpha out here. It's my game, and that's a lot of guys try to do that, but at a Michigan State, it's a process, and it's kind of cool to see guys grow into that role because he's still unselfish. He's still getting a good number of assists and whatnot, but he's clearly looking to be that guy and understands what his role on this team is, and there's a lot of guys like that.
And he's become really good at knowing where his windows are going to show themselves, especially on those baseline inbound plays. Michigan State's running good baseball inbound plays the last couple of years. John Borovich has a lot to do with that, and a lot of those, the opposition knows it's going to Walker, but he still gets open for those baseline jumpers, and he makes them. He visualizes those things going in on those baseline, the stoppages that take place before an inbound play. And that's become a strength for Michigan State, and he's the reason why.
And his teammates, too. I mean, you can't execute those plays without teammates being spaced right, without screens and whatnot. I think just the whole operation-wise, when you have guys on the floor that know what they're doing, it has been a lot better for Michigan State.
If there's a negative today, the big men offensively didn't take a step. Now, Sissoko is very good. Izzo complimented him on his ball screen defense. Izzo was complimentary of Penn State and what they do coming off of ball screens, saying they're really good at that, and Sissoko did a really good job helping contain that. Penn State had some success with some offensive rebounds early in the game. Sissoko hit the gas pedal a little harder and came away with 12 rebounds and looked like a man on a mission on the boards a couple times. So good on him on that. They posted him up once, and he airballed a 4-footer with his back to the basket. Carson Cooper a couple times. Both those guys catching it down low, but seeming to need a dribble to get to the rim, and they dribble and lose it, or the defense would show up or whatever. Both of those guys, in a blowout situation, Michigan State tried to get them some touches. Didn't turn out so well. Everybody knows that offense in the low post for Michigan State is not a strength, but you'd like to see some development there, and there was it didn't happen tonight for those guys.
Number one thing for me for those guys, and I don't expect them to score a lot, but number one thing for me is if you have a dunk, you can dunk it. Okay, that's for offensively. The other stuff is ball screen defense. It's huge. That's what's going to make Michigan State good or bad, whether those guys can play ball screen defense. But Mahdi in the last 5 games he's had double-digit rebounds in 4 out of those last 5 games. He's taking the ball and he's doing it. He's aggressive two-handed rebounds, even when teammates are in the area. He's range rebounding better, and that's what for this team to be a really good team. They need both those guys to rebound at a high level. Cooper's not there quite yet with the rebounding. He's trying, but Michigan State doesn't have a guy that, other than Mahdi, that can go out and give you double-digit rebounds, against a conference opponent. on a consistent basis. They need him to rebound. That's the number one thing with him. Everything else, in my opinion, defense and rebounding, the rest is gravy.
He's had 12 rebounds in 2 straight games, so the rebounding is looking good for him. You know,
4 out of 5 double-digit rebounding performances
from Sissoko.
Yeah, and it started with Baylor. I mean, he really, he told me afterwards. He said, my job on this team is to rebound and play defense. And he's like, if I had done a better job of that earlier in the year, maybe we wouldn't have lost so many of these games. And that mentality's really carried over, and it's been consistent. And he's the most forceful, powerful rebounder they have. And without that, they're in real trouble because, Malik Hall he wants to be physical, but he's more of a finesse player. And, Xavier Booker can't rebound at a high level. If Monty Sissoko is not clearing that glass, then you got to put a lot on the shoulder of guards and wings. Some of those guys can do it, some of them can't. Akins has gotten a lot better. Tyson Walker's a good rebounder for his size. Hogard can be a good rebounder. Konyndyk has shown flashes, but you've got to have a guy that can give you 10 rebounds in a given night. He's that one guy for Michigan State on this roster. No one else.
Yeah, and I was just talking about how Michigan State's low post offense didn't take a step tonight, but people need to understand everything that Sissoko is. Right. I shouldn't be focusing on what he's not, but it's easy. Maybe it's not so easy to appreciate what he is recently, especially when you factor in the ball screen defense and the rebounding. I mean, you want to know how important he is? Try going a couple weeks without him. They'd find out real quickly how important he is as a staple for what they're trying to do. And, Jackson Kohler was involved in warm-ups today. Izzo said earlier this week he wouldn't play in this game, obviously. Getting closer, I don't know what that means. And when he does come back, I'm not sure what his lateral movement's going to look like on defense. That was a weakness last year. Coming off a lower body injury, I can't imagine he'll be quicker. But it'll be interesting to see what he can provide later on. Xavier Booker got some minutes tonight. There were some indications that he might be starting today, but I guess that was just a typo, hiccup type of thing. But he got some early minutes, had a couple of quick fouls, made a little putback, but also didn't look good on defense and rebounding, and just in terms of owning his space, which is a big part of playing down low at this level. And got a lot of minutes, and as Izzo said, a lot of film and correctable moments, and might not be if everybody stays healthy, there might not be another game where he gets this many minutes, so needs to learn from it and go back to work. You can tell that he was mindful. He had his knees bent on the weak side. He's trying to do the right thing, so the attitude is good, but like we've been saying for 2 years, a long way to go. But people need to realize he's a lot better than he was 12 months ago when he was a senior in high school. They've made a lot of progress with him, but still a long way to go. But he got some minutes tonight. But with Kohler coming back at some point, those minutes are going to get tight.
He gave up 2 3-point plays. In Penn State's a big dribble team. You talk about overall court awareness. Every time he was on the floor, they attacked him off the dribble, and that's when they had their best scoring little bursts. And Indiana State was a super difficult team to prepare for, and against teams that have. Every team has their own quirks, so there's not going to be a team out there that you can say, hey, this is a standard game that he's going to thrive in. And to me, I think the biggest thing that he can do is learn how to rebound. And I think that's if he had less of a weakness in his game with the rebounding, if he could rebound, if he could do that one thing, rebound with 2 hands, there would be a role for him on this. Izzo would be more inclined to play him minutes. But I
don't even think it's the hands. I think it's just the ability to command your space. Right. Not there.
And it's the effort stuff, too, as well. There's times where he's running down the floor tonight, and he's looking around to see if there's a guy there before he starts putting on the jets. It's like you can't do that. You've got to be running down the floor. You can't be casually running down the floor and then have a guy drive past you.
You know that he's better than he used to be in that area, too.
I understand that he's better than he used to be.
But even that part used to be worse, right?
Right. And it's just the court awareness that's always been an issue. The lack of strength is a huge issue. The mindset and mentality it takes to rebound, you have to go up and you have to, with 2 hands. And there's been times I know people are like, well, you can't, if you're not strong enough, you can't go up with 2 hands. I'm talking about when no one's around. You go up with 2 hands, and I don't see that. So I know he's trying. I honestly would like to see him a little bit further along in some areas because we've seen a lot of guys over the years take a scout team role and kind of build on that. But Booker's isn't far enough along in any one area where he can help the team with what they need. There's not one area of his game that's so glaring, such a positive that they can make the team better. Any minutes that he gets, it's going to be a roller coaster ride where his teammates have to pick up for his deficiencies. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. That's just the fact of the matter. And to their credit, they're doing that and they're supporting him and they want him to succeed. But every minute that he plays is a gamble that things won't go wrong for Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be playing in any close games. If everybody stays healthy, I wouldn't think. Maybe.
But
I don't know. It's Big Ten season now.
But in Big Ten game, like my friend Rico Beard, our friend, he and I were talking in that Baylor game, and, he's like, well, why can't he play more minutes in that game? And I'm just saying that when you play a really good team, if you've got a 20-point lead, that 20-point lead can turn into a 5-point lead or a deficit real fast. You saw what Michigan State is doing now that guys are scoring. The 12-2, 14-2 runs in a matter of 2 minutes. When you have a weak link or an exploitable weakness, a good team is going to do everything they can to exploit it. And Penn State knew him well enough where when he was on the floor, they attacked him nonstop.
Sure. And, Malik Hall played like 15 of the first 17 minutes in this game. I don't remember Izzo ever playing a quote-unquote big man that many minutes. And Malik Hall was having a really great first half. But I kept waiting for, Booker came in, played 2 minutes, had a couple fouls, went and sat back down. And, Hall played the rest until there was like 4 minutes to go in the half, and then Booker went in with 2 fouls late in the first half. I was waiting for Konyndyk to go play the 4, which they've done most of the year. But Malik Hall was playing well, but I was like, man, they're playing him a lot of minutes. I'm not saying that was bad. It was just different because, they don't have a lot there at the stretch 4 position, at their power forward position, because Booker is what he is, and Hall is pretty good. They've tried Carr there, but Michigan State's looking good. They're gaining traction. They're improving, but not a complete team. And they don't have, as Izzo would say, they don't have Noah's Ark. They don't have 2 of everything. They've got like one of a couple of a few things that, as long as everybody stays healthy, they can continue to build, and they look really good, pretty good right now. But like a lot of teams around the country, there's thin ice in some areas of this roster.
Right. But I think they're getting better with some, like Malik Hall we talked about earlier, but Jaden Akins, tonight, he's not forcing the issue. Like he had a couple create your own threes today, but it was like final second of the shot clock type of stuff. It wasn't going to create an issue for the team. When his shot comes off and it's not dropping, you don't see bad body language. I see him rebounding. Like I mentioned Hogard with the scoring before. He's comfortable scoring at the rim, but he's also able to hit some jumpers. So you see a lot of guys taking steps in their game. It's not a complete team, and I don't necessarily think there is a complete team in college basketball. But when you go up against like a team like a Purdue that knows you as well as Purdue knows Michigan State and what Michigan State wants to do, any kind of deficiency becomes exponentially a problem, unless the reciprocal is also true, unless there's a problem on their end. But one thing that Michigan State does have right now, and go back to where we started in the VCAST, is the guard defense is getting better and better.
Yeah.
And
Akins too. Defense.
So you look at Akins, Hogard.
Makes a big difference.
Trey Hollman is learning how to use his length as a defender. So you've got as good a group of guard defenders as Michigan State has had. They rode that a long ways last year, and in some ways, guys are better. Tyson Walker, as long as he's not playing 35 minutes a game, his defense is going to be something that really is a plus. And you see that we didn't really even talk about as many turnovers as Penn State had. They're a team that didn't turn the ball over very much at all coming into this game. Tyson Walker was a big part of that, and it's not the steals that they're getting aren't out of control steals that lead to scoring opportunities. It's really good position defense, and that type of defense can really travel.
And Akins, you're seeing more of that athleticism, and he has athleticism. Everybody knows that. It's being shown on the defensive end. Energy, urgency. There was a play today when he was all into the ball handler and shot clock situation, went up, blocked it, but fouled him with the body, and he was upset about the foul. Izzo called him over and went forehead to forehead with him and said, "Hey man, that's great." He applauded him and was happy with the way, just the urgency and the effort that Akins was giving on defense. When Akins is doing that, that makes the defense so much better, which makes the team so much better. That was a staple that was missing a few weeks ago as well. Aikens playing defense made a big difference.
He's been at times like he takes pride in his defense. I've told you before, talked before about he wants to be an all Big Ten defender, and defense was probably not on the forefront of his mind in the beginning of the year when he's struggling to shoot as well as poorly as he did. But in the last 4 or 5 games, he's kind of come on. Hogard's come on as a defender, and Tyson Walker, I think those guys had to, because Tyson Walker is wearing down as a defender as well. So, but if those guys play that defense like that, and Hogard doesn't have to play too many minutes, and Hollman can continue using that length, not many teams have a complement of guards that Michigan State has.
Absolutely, and they're going to need them. If they get 10 out of 21 shooting from 3, they'll have a lot of success in the Big Ten. That won't happen every night, of course, but really good step for them tonight. Northwestern's 10-3, coming off a 30-point loss to Illinois, but that's a team that beat Purdue back in December. A Northwestern team that made the NCAA tournament last year, beat Boise State in the NCAA tournament, lost to UCLA by like 6 or 7 points in the second round. Good Northwestern program right now, going on the road to play them there.
They always give Michigan State trouble. There's some teams that give you trouble. Northwestern, there might be an outlier here or there where Michigan State beats Northwestern by a good chunk, but playing there, Boo Booey's probably going to have a huge game. They've got some experience back. Chris Collins knows how to. They do a pretty good job generally getting back in transition, but they're not going to be a team. They're not going to be a team that fears Michigan State, and it'll be a task for Michigan State to win on the road there. If Michigan State wins on the road that's going to be a huge statement. That would be obviously 6 wins in a row. But to win on the road at a place like that's had some success against you is a big deal, and it's a thing that Michigan State's working towards. I think they're ready to do it, but it's going to take continued good defense, and it is really hard to guard a guy like Boo Buie, who has no conscience and has had success hitting shots from all over the place against you.
And Michigan State's 9-5 now, good record. If they an improving record, they go and win at Northwestern and get to 2-2 in the Big Ten, 10-5. That's a sneaky, important statement. Like you're saying, it's low key. People nationwide might not realize what a step that would be. But Michigan State, what they were a few weeks ago, to be able to go do that against the Northwestern team, it's a great test for Michigan State. It's going to be intriguing to see what happens there. Then they play Illinois after that. So Michigan State's got a chance and I think they gained some traction during Christmas break. Those 2-a-days, having the stretch of days when they didn't have games, and Izzo getting into them mentally and psychologically about how good Indiana State was, and they prepared. They trusted him and the coaching staff for how good Indiana State was. And, they focused, I think, what was it the Stony Brook game, the game before the holidays? Izzo was into that, the game before the holidays, the game after the holidays. All of that stuff resulted in some productive practices that showed itself with a blowout here today, which is what you're supposed to do when you're the better team. Now, can it carry over? I suspect that it will, but we'll have to wait and see. Great chance for Michigan State.
The thing that's got to make you feel good, too, is that the teams that they beat were very, in some ways, dissimilar, but also had some quirky things to them that you have to cover. You go back. I'm not so concerned about the Stony Brook thing. That's great that they had their heads on straight. But you look at Baylor, heavy ball screen, all that stuff. Then you look at Oakland, how quirky that is, and how Michigan State went from Baylor to Oakland. You saw Indiana State, which is as unique a test as I can remember them playing at a mid-major team in this building. It was almost like facing like a Lehigh or something like that, or Old Dominion or something, Nevada in the NCAA tournament. It kind of reminded me of that. And then you see them go back to conference play and use the staples of the program, defense and running. Those are good things. But the ability for a veteran team to follow a scouting report, I think at least the 3 or 4 games, or the last 5, Izzo has talked about what a good game plan his assistants have had. The scouts were really good. And that doesn't happen unless you follow that game plan.
Right.
So the assistants get credit when players follow game plans, and Michigan State's veteran team has done a really good job of that, and even getting some of the younger guys to follow those game plans. But that's a good sign, too, that these guys are coachable, that they can follow instructions, and they definitely have gotten better. Shooting the ball is one thing, but playing defense the way they play defense, that can carry you in a lot of games this year.
Fun times at the Breslin Center, full crowd today, and they got their money's worth. A good performance by Michigan State.
First night with alcohol.
First night with alcohol. Did you have a beer, Paul?
No, I didn't. I'd fall asleep if I did.
That'd be a problem. But anyway, give us a like here on the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Go to SpartanMag.com. Become a subscriber. Big weekend for portal transfer recruiting. Good story by Jason Killip over at SpartanMag.com about some defensive front seven visitors, plus Rodney Hurd, corner from Northwestern, is the second team All Big Ten guy that would come in and have a real good chance to start and have an impact. Those guys are visiting this weekend. It's transfer portal season, and there's some interesting ones coming to Michigan State this weekend football-wise. Jonathan Smith was here. I heard Aiden Childs was here. So go to SpartanMag.com for all that coverage. Anything else, Paul? For Paul Konyndyk, my name is Jim Comparoni. You've been watching the VCast from Breslin Center with the Spartans for SpartanMag.com.